I was 19, working late shifts at a diner in a small town where rain seemed to fall every other night. It was a miserable, soaking evening in October. The kind where the rain doesn't just fall, it hammers the ground like it's angry. I'd missed the last bus home, so I was stuck at the empty bus stop. A flickering street lamp was my only company. The shelter was a rusted metal frame with a cracked plastic roof, barely keeping me dry. My phone was dead, and the road was deserted, stretching into the dark like it led nowhere. I figured I'd wait for a passing car to flag down, but the rain was so loud it drowned out everything else. After about 20 minutes, I noticed a figure standing across the street, just beyond the street lamp's glow. They were motionless, a black silhouette in a hooded coat, face hidden. I squinted, thinking it was some drunk from the bar nearby, but something felt off. They didn't move, didn't sway, just stood there, staring. My stomach twisted. I told myself it was nothing, just someone waiting like me. But the way they blended into the rain-soaked shadows made my skin crawl. I shifted, pulling my jacket tighter, and checked my watch. No cars, no buses, just the relentless patter of rain. 10 minutes later, the figure was still there. I couldn't take it anymore, so I shouted, "Hey, you okay?" My voice barely carried over the storm. No response. Then, slowly, they raised a hand, not waving, but pointing at me. My heart skipped. I backed up, the shelter's plastic wall cold against my spine. Lightning cracked, lighting up the street, and for a split second, I saw their face, or lack of it. Just a smooth, pale oval, no eyes, no mouth, nothing. I froze, breath caught in my throat. The light faded, and they were gone. I told myself it was a trick of the storm, my tired eyes playing games. But then I heard it. Wet, slapping footsteps, like bare feet on pavement, coming from behind the shelter. I spun around, but no one was there. The sound stopped, then started again, closer, circling. My hands shook as I grabbed the only thing in my pocket, a flimsy keychain. The footsteps got louder, uneven, like whoever it was limped or dragged something. I bolted from the shelter, running down the empty road, rain stinging my face. The footsteps followed, splashing through puddles, never speeding up but never falling behind. I don't know how long I ran, maybe 10 minutes, until I saw headlights. A trucker pulled over, bless him, and I scrambled in, babbling about someone chasing me. He looked confused but drove me home. I didn't sleep that night, couldn't shake the image of that faceless thing. The next day, I went back to the bus stop in daylight, needing answers. Tucked under the bench, half buried in mud, was a soaked photograph. It was me, standing in the shelter, taken from across the street. My blood ran cold. I hadn't seen a camera, hadn't heard a click. I burned the photo and never worked the late shift again. Years later, I still avoid that road when it rains, and I swear, some nights, I hear those wet footsteps outside my window, circling, waiting. If this story creeped you out, please take a moment to subscribe the channel. Your support matters a lot. I'm 27 now, but when I was 22, I lived alone in a creaky apartment building on the edge of the city. It was a rainy night in March, the kind where the wind howls and the windows rattle like they're begging to break. I was up late, binge-watching some show, when the power flickered. The room went dark for a second, then came back on, but my TV stayed off. Annoyed, I got up to check the breaker, but something made me glance out my window first. Across the narrow alley, in the apartment opposite mine, a light was on in Mr. Hargrove's place. He was an old guy, kept to himself, always shuffling around in a stained bathrobe. But that night, his window showed something else. A figure stood there, tall and thin, facing away from me, swaying slightly like it was listening to music I couldn't hear. The rain blurred the view, but I could tell it wasn't Hargrove. Too tall, too wrong. I stared, heart picking up as the figure raised a hand and pressed it against the glass, leaving a smudged print. Then it turned, and I swear, its eyes were just black pits, like holes punched in a face. I ducked below my window, pulse racing. I told myself it was a guest, maybe a relative, but Hargrove never had visitors. I peeked again, and the figure was gone, the light off. My apartment felt colder, like the storm had slipped inside. Then I heard it, a faint scratching, like nails on wood, coming from my front door. I froze, clutching my phone, but the battery was low, and the signal was garbage in the storm. The scratching stopped, replaced by a soft knock, deliberate, like someone testing if I was home. I didn't move, didn't breathe. The knocking grew louder, more insistent, until it was a pounding that shook the doorframe. I grabbed a kitchen knife and crept to the peephole. Nothing. Just the empty hallway, rain streaking the window at the end. But when I looked down, water was seeping under my door, pooling on the floor, muddy and thick. I backed away, heart in my throat, and called 911, whispering so whatever was out there wouldn't hear. The operator said police were on their way, but the storm was slowing them down. The pounding stopped, but then my window rattled, not from wind, but like someone was prying at it. I ran to my bedroom, locked the door, and hid in the closet, knife in hand. The rattling turned to banging, glass creaking under pressure. Then, silence. I waited, shaking, until sirens wailed outside. The police found nothing. No footprints, no broken glass, just the muddy water in my hall. They checked Hargrove's place. He was fine, said he'd been asleep all night. But I saw his window later, smeared with handprints that weren't there before. I moved out the next week and never looked back. Some nights when it rains, I still hear that scratching, like it followed me. I was 16, living in a sleepy rural town where everyone knew your business. It was a rainy April night, the kind where the air feels heavy and the ground turns to sludge. I'd snuck out to meet friends at our usual bonfire spot, a clearing deep in the woods we'd claimed as our own. The rain was steady, not a downpour, but enough to soak through my hoodie and make my sneakers squelch with every step. My flashlight cast a weak beam, barely cutting through the fog that clung to the trees like a shroud. I'd walked this path 100 times, but that night, the woods felt alive, watchful, the rain muffling all but my ragged breathing. I was late. My mom had been hovering, asking too many questions about my study plans. The path was a muddy mess, and I cursed under my breath as I slipped, catching myself on a slick branch. About halfway to the clearing, I heard a sharp snap, like someone stepping on a twig. I froze, swinging my flashlight around, its light bouncing off wet leaves and gnarled trunks. Nothing. I called out, "Jake? Sarah? You guys out there?" Thinking my friends were pranking me. Silence answered, except for the relentless patter of rain. My stomach twisted, but I shook it off. Probably a deer, I told myself, and kept moving. Faster now, the cold seeping into my bones. Then I saw it. A figure on the path ahead, barely visible through the mist. They were hunched over, wearing a tattered coat that hung off them like it was too big, head bowed like they were muttering to themselves. My heart picked up. The clearing wasn't far, but this didn't feel right. I shouted, "Hey, you lost or something?" My voice cracked, swallowed by the storm. The figure didn't move. I stepped closer, against every instinct screaming to turn back. Lightning split the sky, and for a moment, I saw their face. Gaunt, skin grayish, eyes too wide, like they'd seen something awful. Their mouth stretched into a grin that wasn't human. Too many teeth, too sharp. In their hand, A rusted shovel gleamed wetly, gripped like they meant to swing it. I stumbled back, my flashlight slipping from my grip and rolling into the mud, its beam flickering wildly. The figure jerked forward, not running but lurching, like their legs didn't work right. I turned and bolted, mud sucking at my shoes, branches clawing my face. Behind me I heard it, splashing, uneven steps, heavy and deliberate, chasing me through the dark. My lungs burned, my heart hammered, but I didn't dare look back. The clearing was my only hope, where my friends would be waiting, laughing, ready to call me a coward. But when I burst into the open, the clearing was empty. No bonfire, no friends, just rain and silence so thick it pressed against my ears. I ducked behind a tree, chest heaving, trying to listen over the storm. The footsteps had stopped, but I felt watched, like the woods themselves were holding their breath. I waited, maybe 20 minutes, shivering, my clothes plastered to my skin. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Texts from my friends, saying they'd bailed because of the rain. I was alone. I couldn't stay there, not with that thing out there. I decided to take a longer route home, circling through the denser part of the forest to avoid the main path. Every rustle made me flinch. Every shadow looked like that grinning face. The rain was heavier now, stinging my eyes, and my flashlight was long gone. When I finally reached my street, I sprinted to my house, fumbling with my keys, and locked every door behind me. I didn't sleep, just sat on my bed, dripping wet, replaying that face, that shovel. The next morning, I dragged my older brother back to the clearing to find my flashlight. It was there, half buried in mud, next to a footprint. Too big, too deep, with claw-like marks at the toes. Nearby, a scrap of tattered fabric hung on a branch, reeking of something sour, like decay. We didn't find the shovel or the figure, but I haven't walked that path since. My friends think I'm paranoid, but they didn't see those eyes. Now, when it rains, I lock my windows and lie awake, listening for those splashing steps, waiting for that grin to appear at my window, shovel in hand. If you enjoyed these stories, please do hit the subscribe button.